Hello, YouTube. I just came back from work, which is why I'm wearing a hat. I used to really hate baseball hats, or any hats for that matter, but now because of this job, I've grown to really appreciate them because you just put on the hat and you go. You don't have to, make your hair, because I have the most obnoxiously straight hair where if I don't, put anything in it or if I just let it grow, it literally becomes like a mushroom. It's not a Jufro, but it becomes there's some pictures from my early years as a young lad with the mushroom hair. And anyway, but that is kind of a segue into appearance, which is kind of a segue into what I'm going to be talking about today, which is the struggles that I have living in a very materialistic world. And I think in particular in a kind of materialistic generation and in a materialistic setting, which is university. Now, unlike a lot of other people that I know, everything. This is kind of weird. This water, fluoride in the water. Unlike a lot of my friends at university, and I go to a school that's predominantly in Canada of international students, including myself. Most of my friends have kind of their mommy and daddy's credit cards, and they go around and they spend copious amounts of money, and they get very invested in their clothing and in how they look and what designer brands they have. And I'd be lying if I said that didn't have an effect on me and that didn't make me kind of wish that I could afford to do that. And I am fortunate that my parents are very supportive and they do pay for my my higher education, and they support my living costs, but they've done a very terrific job of giving me kind of just enough to get by. And that's instilled in me a very strong urgency to work and have a job, and I really do like working, even if it's minimum wage. Even if it's at a grocery store where I'm working now, because there's something very satisfying in making your own money and then doing with it what you please. But I had a realization recently when I was driving home from work, and it happened yesterday, and I jokingly came home and told my parents, I was like, God spoke to me, and they thought that I had really gone off the deep end. But for work, as you can see, I have to wear this black polo, and then these black pants. This is like some weird, what am I wearing video. And then this is like basically a homeless person jacket. No offense to homeless people, but see, and that's what I'm talking about, because actually I have this jacket. It's very cheap. It's from Amazon, and probably cost like $20, and I bought it because it's very comfortable. And I'm kind of, I guess an elderly person in that way, in that I'm all about the comfort, and I'm not necessarily about having like the Gucci or the Versace or whatever. But one of my friends, this person is kind of my friend, but he is so materialistic. He came to where I live in Montreal, and he saw that I was wearing that, not that I was wearing, but I had this in my closet, and he was like, your closet makes me want to throw up. And he comes from a family with tons of money, and he just has mommy and daddy's credit card, and he goes around and he spends and he buys Gucci or Versace, and he thinks he's this entrepreneur and all that because sometimes he resells his old things, and it all the while he does say anti-Semitic stuff to me, and which is, so he's really actually not my friend. To be honest, sorry, this notification just came in, but he's kind of the most extreme example of this culture of materialism that is so prevalent, particularly since I've moved to Montreal, where most of my friends are international students because I'm an international student myself, and they don't understand the value of money because they've never had a job before. I mean, I've worked since I'm 14, and I am the first to admit, too, that I am materialistic as well. We all are in some way. And I'm the first to admit, too, that I am not someone who has no financial support from their parents and whose parents make them pay for their own education and, pay for their own, cost of buying groceries. But my parents have always been very stingy in the amount of money they've given me, and that used to really bother me. And sometimes, in Montreal, I still am bothered because I'm like, oh, I want to, go buy all this stuff with my friends. And I kind of, back to that realization that I mentioned, I wear this basically every day because I work 6 days a week. And I was thinking, you know what, Henry, you're wearing this black shirt, these black pants, which are very comfortable, frankly. You have this sweater for when you go into the walk-in freezer. And despite it not being designer, despite it all being very cheap, it gets the job done. But, and this is me speaking to myself, but you're allowing yourself to be bothered by other people's comments on wow, your watch is a Swatch. It's not a Rolex or whatever. And then you're thinking oh, you're going to save up your money and buy this watch. And then I'm thinking to myself, but it's just a timepiece. It's just telling you what the time of day it is. And since being home and kind of being detached from that high materialism environment, I've realized I got to get my priorities straight in terms of not letting these people, some of whom are my friends who I really care for, some of whom, like the guy I mentioned, are my friends, sort of, who I have major ethical issues with. There's so much suffering and pain in the world. There really is. And there's something to be said for that. As a society, we need to stop being so obsessed with what is the name brand of our clothing. What is this? And what is it? And be more focused on the inside. And I guess it kind of, it sounds stupid, like what they tell you in elementary school, oh, it's on the inside what counts, and blah, blah, blah. And yes, of course, what you wear to an interview is going to impact if you get the job or not in most situations. But I think that a goal of mine when I go back to school in September is to really just stick to my guns. It sounds very Second Amendment. Stick to my... Nothing wrong with the Second Amendment, by the way. But this isn't a political video. Stick to my principles that I was raised with, which is that work really, really hard, give back. If I'm so fortunate to, the old expression, you can't, if your cup isn't full, you can't give someone water or something like that. But give back to the causes that mean stuff to me, like mental health issues and diabetes, which people in my family suffer from, and, animal welfare and aid and that is so much more meaningful to me than to go and buy something that isn't important. And I don't actually own a single designer thing. I never really was not obsessed, but preoccupied with getting it. But I've realized that when I go back, I can't let these people, like this kind of asshole that I mentioned, get me all tripped up in what I think, what I think is important. Because in life, what's important is not what you're wearing, not what designer thing, not, if you're in first class or if you're in coach on a plane, not that. But what's important is the people you meet, the places you see, the love you experience, the family you are a part of or you create, the dogs in your life. There's so many important things in life and so many things that just fill my life with meaning. And I am committed to not letting people, when I go back, because you are a product of your environment, and now I'm kind of rambling, so I'm going to wrap it up, but not letting the environment that I am in change who I am. So I hope this video encouraged you to think about materialism in your own life. And this isn't to bash people who have designer things, whether they work super hard to earn the money and they buy it, or whether their parents bought it for them. It's not to bash that. It's not, but it's not to say, don't go buy something nice for yourself once in a while if you're so fortunate that you can do it. But my kind of call to action here is to put it in perspective, because I really see a troubling trend among my peers, and I don't want to live in a world that is dominated by ridiculous things like what you wear, not who you are or what you do. Anyway, cheers. I think the UK won the World Cup. I really don't give a shit about the World Cup. I'm sorry. Everyone around me is like, so like, oh my god, the World Cup. And I'm sorry, I just don't care. But don't they say something in the UK, like when they're clinking? The UK probably didn't even win. I don't even know what I'm talking about with the World Cup. But if they did win, then like, cheers, have a pint. That's as shitty as a British accent anyway. Anywhere, ever done. Okay, now I'm really rambling. Take care, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you want me to talk about any other things, or if you want me to shut up, then, I won't. So, but, okay, bye. Drop the phone. Went out with a bang.